Hello, test subjects. It's time to join the experiment below as we gear up for Apex Legends' next collection event and the new Town Takeover for Gas Daddy Caustic. Now, as the game itself has graciously pointed out, there's a collection of 3 audio logs to be found across Kings Canyon that together lay out Caustic's plan for the chemical spill draining from Crash Site into the Spotted Lakes. The first log can be found in Crash Site itself, informing us about the chemical reaction.
The erupted gas pocket and fuel have combined to create a gargantuan supply of toxin. If there's a way to refine it, I could mold it into something spectacular.
And then the second log can be found by following the water supply through Kings Canyon, leading to the Echo Research Tent by Containment.
The best way to test this would be human subjects. Luckily, there's an ample supply of lab rats right here.
And so, with test subjects in tow, the final log takes us further down the river to another Echo station tucked away to the west of Repulsor.
The water treatment facility will not purify this toxic spill. If I could convince them that I could handle it, well, that would open some real possibilities.
Then, as you just heard, this final log leads us onto our ultimate destination, water treatment, and Caustic's Town Takeover, the extraction plant, or the refinery, or the filtration station, whatever you want to call it. I think that this is ultimately a really good location to expand on due to its really exposed rotations and low player interest. Like, nobody lands at water treatment, right? Especially given the new real estate that we have now in the north. And the place itself could definitely benefit from an aesthetic overhaul, as we've seen Kings Canyon actually improve upon this season with its much clearer lighting and its brighter colour palettes. But, this being Caustic, and a point of interest built to extract megatoxin from the water supply and then test it on human subjects, it's probably not going to be all that pretty, right? Caustic already frustrates people as it is, so what could amount to like a frickin' gas chamber might be a step too far in that direction. Like, no one is going to land in that kind of place as it is, maybe except Caustic players, and a new building that offers just a better defensive position, like tons of gas, or perhaps functions as something like a killing floor, again tons of gas, doesn't seem like the most imaginative reason to put a new building here. It's just Caustic the building. And those sort of things just kind of exist across the map as it is anyway. So what could be a more like functional utility to give to players in this space? I think our answer could actually stem into the lore or even the ongoing story, depending on the execution. To look backwards first, a good way to expand on Caustic's existing research and motivations would be to have the new toxin not work as we expect it to, or even as we believe Caustic would want it to. Having this gas chamber actually work as like a free source of healing, or to provide some sort of damage immunities instead of damaging you, would not only make the location just more appealing to control in-game, but it could also give us some insight into Caustic's ultimate goal. As when the Season 6 trailer showed Caustic linked up to his own gas, I took to wondering about his cough. Of course he's tested his toxin on himself in some way, like he's that kind of guy, you know, but why breathe it in constantly? Has that developed his immunity to the gas so it counts as the antidote? Is that what lets him see others in the gas through like chemical reactions? Hell, is it actually the thing that's keeping him alive? This led me to a theory that Caustic's obsession with understanding death comes from a desire to cure it. Yeah, death itself, right? Inspired by the loss of his father through chemical poisoning caused by faulty Humbert Labs products, which then caused the foreclosure of his parents' farm, pushed him to leave home, and led his mother to open an orphanage. Caustic then took revenge on Dr. Humbert and the labs, and used their research to develop a compound that is at first degenerative, as we've seen, but with prolonged exposure, like Caustic has put himself through, it becomes regenerative. Even if he can't bring his father back to life like proper Frankenstein style, perhaps he's trying to create a regenerative compound to help, say, his mother, who has suffered more long-term effects of a lesser chemical exposure. All speculation, of course, right? But it's definitely a way that they could use this new location to expand on Caustic's history while also progressing his relationship to someone like Crypto in the present. Pathfinder's quest has given them both the information that they might be foster brothers. So to see Caustic's actions now from a more sympathetic light, especially concerning Mystic, might be a really good way to bring those two closer together, or to draw even more concern to Caustic's methods. I don't think it's a coincidence that the extraction plan is going to be positioned close to Crypto's map room. But of course there are other characters like Watson that this could spark further confrontation or connection with as well. Which leads us to the current story, and a totally different, yet probably way more familiar way to expand on Caustic, teaming up with Mad Maggie. Maggie wants the legends to burn in order to bring Fuse home, and Caustic wants them to melt for the findings that their corpses will produce. Match made in heaven, right? He's already shown interest in taking Fuse's arm, so a collaboration on their parts against either Fuse or the rest of the legends could certainly be a way to go. And this is where I feel the comic hiatus and the mid-season update are gonna come into play. Having shown more and more in-world interaction throughout the game this last season, I feel that Maggie is now actually posed to present an actual threat inside the games themselves and the game itself. The patch notes are said to be pretty huge for this mid-season update, so I'd argue that this is going to bring in a situational environmental hazard, where Maggie will create new death zones on the map by dropping napalm from the sky or releasing packs of prowlers from atop the cliffs, assisting the ring in limiting your available play space. Caustic's plant can then play into this from either a story or a mechanical viewpoint, by either adding to Maggie's actions or trying to counter them. Activating a release valve could see you introduce an entire second ring to the map, as a gas cloud slowly expands to fill the available space with you in the center. So a little bit of risk reward, if not pretty damn frustrating. So a nicer alternative could be to open up gas geysers or vents across the map that deal damage in the surrounding area but offer extra mobility to anyone willing to get close enough. You could even just turn these Toxin silos into classic exploding barrels, say, for a bit more player versus player interaction, and a change to how you actually play on King's Canyon. The countermeasure then, on the other hand, would be to give the new Toxin being tested an accidental property that Caustic either didn't expect or that we didn't think Caustic would want, such as a fire-resistant property, so you can stand in Maggie's napalm zones, or acting as a prowler repellent to turn the beasties aside. Just something to actually help mitigate these new threats that could be presented by Maggie, and even if that comes about against his wishes. Although, given his attitude thus far, he does seem much more likely to work with Maggie, with his Town Takeover adding to Maggie's threats against the games, or setting her up with a perfect target to aim for in the second round of comics. Blowing up the Toxin plant is probably going to kill off a few legends, just saying. Although, that said, given the positive reception of King's Canyon's fresher vibe this season, I doubt they'd want to turn it into Caustic Gas Island anytime soon. I kinda like the idea of us as players choosing how much health we're willing to sacrifice to Caustic, and the players then actually get to inform whether or not he learns enough to progress, which then determines which side he allies with, or what he actually creates from his findings, which then changes the ongoing story from that point. But the whole gas chamber imagery that jumps to mind at the very beginning of all that really isn't pleasant for a number of reasons. So I think that's best left there, right? So, in summary, Caustic's Town Takeover will be a filtration and refinery plant added onto the water treatment facility, where he means to gather his new super toxin to test on the legends. If it works as expected, he's most likely to team up with Maggie for the second half of Armageddon, but if not, it could open up a more sympathetic side to the character, his history, and his relationships with others. If the IMS Thermopylae was using branthium for fuel, you can bet that Horizon's going to take an interest in those findings, especially if he's able to extract branthium from the water, and if the greater ecological disaster ends up actually being as regenerative to King's Canyon as Caustic's Toxin could be to people, we might even see Bloodhound getting involved as well, with hopes of repairing the environment of World's Edge. But that's all for the future, or at least the massive mid-season update. I'm really glad they're trying to use the map to help tell this evolving seasonal storyline, and I super appreciate the little extra touches they've used to help keep us all up to date with those proceedings. But that's all I gotta say on that. What do you think Caustic's Refinery is going to do, friends? Hit me up in the comments below if you have any ideas, and if not, hey, thanks for staying with me all this way. I've been Euclidean Vision, the emotional support. Take care of yourselves out there, teammates, and may the glorious light of Baskerville shine within you. Bye bye.